Thursday, guys. Of course, I'm coming to my home office today, and I want to thank you all for enjoying my wonderful International Women's Month. But I gotta tell you, this one here is special to my heart. One of my wonderful, wonderful good friends. We've been through some really big things together, really big and hard things together. And she's taken out the time out of her busy schedule in law school, amongst other things, to chat with us and let us know what she's up to, what we need to support, and also how much we love each other. Addys Castillo. Now, wait a minute. Are you related to Juan? Okay, here we go with the phone. Are you related to Juan at all? Oh, God, ignore it.
Busy. I think that's one of my favorite questions. I get asked that at least once a year.
And it's so funny because wait, hold on, I'm so sorry. I don't know why this is doing this, but I don't know how to stop it. So that's the bad thing. I haven't figured out how to stop that. Okay. All right, I got it stopped. All right. Sorry about that.
So it's funny. I met Juan a couple years ago, but for as long as I can remember, I think I've been asked that question. Hi, any relation to Juan Castillo? My understanding, Juan Castillo is Panamanian, if I'm not mistaken. We share the same last name, but I have my father's last name, and my father is Colombian. Okay. So no relation to Juan. Shout outs to Juan. Juan's good peoples, but no, we are not related. I don't think there's any other Castillos in Connecticut that I'm related to, actually.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I'm a Jones. It's impossible to be related to all the Joneses in New Haven. So I understand that. That's why I wanted to put that question out there, because people always ask me, are they related? I said, I'm sure they're not, because it's like me being a Jones. So I know you get it all the time.
I understand that. Totally understand that.
So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there, because I know some people are probably just going, oh, they always did. You know, it's not like, you know, the Smiths, okay?
No, not at all. I was a resident assistant, resident advisor when I was in college. And I remember on move-in day, this young lady moved in, and her last name was Streeter. And I was like, New Haven, right? And she's like, yeah. I was like,
listen, on top of that, we got, is it EE or EA Streeter? Which one?
So EA. So yeah. Shout out to the Streeters, right? So no, I am not no relation to Juan. My family last names in New Haven at least vary from Arroyo.
I know.
Roman, Falero, Peña, you know. Yeah, we have a couple of last names, but
it's amazing because your aunt was my daughter's preschool teacher.
Get out of here!
How small it is at the Y.
Oh, word!
Lydia, she's my sister, and your mom's so beautiful. I love your mother. Every time I see her, she doesn't remember me, but she's probably like, I never look the same anyway.
Yeah. She remembers faces, and she's like, you know, your friend. Your friend.
Yeah, I'm like, daughter's friend. It's like, you know, my mom. They're like, we got too many friends. Oh, hi, how are you? Like they know. Not asking.
Happens all the time, but yeah.
Especially because of the work that we do in New Haven, you know, it's amazing because a lot of people know us from the work and getting into some of the work that we've done. But tell me about your childhood.
Well, let me see. Where do I begin? So I wasn't born. I'm not born in New Haven, raised in New Haven, though. I was born in New York City. Then I moved to Puerto Rico for the first maybe 4 or 5 years of my life. Before coming here when I was like 7. I've lived primarily in the Dwight Kensington area. And I mean, I lived in Dwight Kensington in the 80s, like 86. Yeah, 80, man. So you remember what Dwight Kensington looked like. I lived right on Edgewood Avenue. Before it was Amistad Academy, when it was Dwight
School. Yeah, and the White, they just tore down the White. What did they used to call those? I can't believe they tore those down.
White Castle, the castle.
Oh, I was like, yo, they took down the White Castle. You know?
Yeah, you know what? Oh man, that still feels like an eyesore. Like it's gone. But no, so I grew up in that neighborhood back in the 80s when We were one of the only Latino families in that community. It was myself, the Ramirez family that was further down the street, and then there was the De Jesus family, which was on Kensington Street. So
Yes.
I grew up in New Haven. I've loved New Haven. I've lived in Dwight Kensington. I also went to school and lived over on Adeline Street in the Hill.
Yeah.
When I started, getting my own apartment and what have you, I lived in Fairhaven. I loved living in Fairhaven. That's a whole other story in itself.
Fairhaven is a whole country. I think a city, like it's a whole
It's so
Connecticut.
self-contained. Oh my God, when I lived there, I didn't have to leave. I think I had a car accident once that I was without a car, and it didn't matter. I got all my needs met.
I know, yeah. The Sweet Town's been there forever, right? Though, what Rite Aid before it was Rite Aid.
Groceries, clinic, bank, the whole bit.
C-Town was delivering before grocery delivery was, and then what's the laundromat? The laundromat that used to pick up your laundry. It's like amazing.
Absolutely. And then I've also I went back to living in Dwight Kensington up until I bought my house. I lived in the neighborhood I grew up in. I love the Dwight Kensington neighborhood. It's probably my favorite neighborhood of all. It's a combination of Edgewood Park. I think it's just something about the park. And it's actually like the community gatherings at the park during the summertime where everybody's just park their car right on the street.
I can walk there now. I love it. I can walk there now, so it's amazing. So I, put the girl in the stroller. Pretty soon she'll be walking because I can go right down Hubinger and be there, So it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
So childhood, Kensington, love it.
So I went to I grew up there, but for the most part I went to like the magnet school system. I'm a product of the magnet school system in New Haven. I went to Betsy Ross, Vincent E. Morrow, Career High School, graduate of New Haven Public Schools. I went off to college, initially in Philadelphia, but eventually transferred back. It was cheaper to go to school in New Haven, and I didn't realize how homesick I would become. Don't tell my mama. But yeah, I became homesick.
You just told everybody. Matter of fact,
I told everybody, but I got homesick, and I came home. I ended up at Central Connecticut State University. It was a much better fit. Coming from New Haven schools and thinking about even being at Career. When I was at Career had like less than 400 students. It isn't the Career we know today. It's the Career that is now West Hills. That building. So I got used to small classes, and being at a school like Temple that had such a large, it was like 20,000 students. I had lecture halls of like 300 people. That wasn't the move for me. I needed somebody in a smaller space. So Central was where I finished. I did my undergraduate there. And ever since, I kind of like bounced around Connecticut. I think I've worked and lived in Hartford, Waterbury. I've worked in Middletown. I used to work for DCF. I've worked all over the place, and even left on a couple of occasions. I've lived in New York when I went to grad school in New York. I lived in California, in Oakland.
I remember California.
All right, that's right. Yeah. That's right. We were in contact. You was taking care of me. Handling. This is how we met. Matter of fact, we met. I was thinking about, when did I meet you?
And then you said
2010. I think it was 2010 when I first started getting serious about pursuing a career long-term in public service. And I remember being told how important it was to have your finances in order. And Latrice introduced us because you were her accountant. So then you became my accountant. Yeah, that's how we first got acquainted. And I still remember when you had that office on Dixwell.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh, my gosh. You really go back.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I remember you were like, stop throwing your money away at Western Union. That's what you told me.
Oh. Man, listen. When people, they just just give away fees.
I didn't know.
Okay. But see, we forget that Walmart's everywhere. You know what I mean? And that Walmart transfer that money, just Walmart to Walmart, and now they have their whole new banking, they're all banking system now. So you have to think about who made that banking system, the people that were going to Walmart and just doing the minimum fees. And, I know they're conglomerate and they're doing whatever, but at the same rate, we have to use the stepping stones that'll save us money, and you listen, because you really, when I tell you, I sometimes I go, I can't imagine. As long as I've known you, you've been in school, and
Yeah.
you've always been educating at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the hardest part, because the things that you do with the youth are amazing, and it's just that you've been doing it so long. And when you made that decision, I was like, God finally told you what you needed to do, because we needed you here and we still need you here. And some of the young ladies and just the kids in general, the little meetings we used to have at the library, remember those? You know?
Yeah. We've grown. We've done a lot of growing since then.
Yeah.
It's funny, Marcy, because when I went to Cali, I was all set. I couldn't wait to go. I was a little nervous about going out there for
Mhm.
school.
Mhm.
And I loved Oakland. I mean, I really fell in love with Oakland. But the truth was,
Mhm.
what I loved about Oakland is how much it reminded me of New Haven. Same
Yes.
type of houses, they had a Broadway, like they had the whole setup and was very much
Mhm.
like we do.
Mhm.
But when it came time to look for work after graduation, I ended up back home because I almost felt like for lack of a better term, imagine you trying to go to somebody else's neighborhood to go, let me clean up your city when you ain't
Mhm.
done nothing to help your city. So I kind of
Mhm.
felt a little bit of a like, yeah, I can't be trying to jump in a parachute
Yeah.
in somebody else's community when I haven't, what have I done for my community, more or less? Like,
Mhm.
what did I do in New Haven?
Mhm.
But when I came back, it was kind of hard to find work in New Haven. New Haven isn't an easy place to find work.
Yeah.
The kind of work we do, it's almost like
Yes.
you end up working for other folks. So initially, I was doing work in New York City for the
Yeah.
Children's Aid Society, running
Mhm.
their juvenile justice work, their whole
I remember that.
portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole commuting back and forth. Yeah, because you were trying to get me to take your apartment in the Bronx. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was like a hard year and a half of commute back and forth where the commute itself became like a part-time job
Yeah.
until the opportunity presented itself here in New Haven and, citywide became an option. And I couldn't have happened at a better time because I
Mhm.
was so tired of doing
The
direct service.
community.
Like it's funny, as someone who has spent most of my life doing program work,
Yes.
my program work trying to fix it feels like I've been trying to fix people all my life. The work that Citywide challenged me to do was to kind of look, take a step back, and if it's not the services that we're providing, what exactly is the issue? And the issue always comes back to it's bigger than just service provision. It's what is the environment that we're servicing young people for. It's like we're constantly teaching young people to fish, and then we're gonna send them over to the pond over at Southern, as if that's gonna
There
be
ain't
the
no
way
fish.
they're
The
gonna.
fish aren't great.
Yeah, there's no fish there at all. So like we gotta be about the business of organizing to get people to get to the ocean, more or less. So
Mhm. Mhm.
nah, it was I love that I do work now in New Haven, not only because it's close. I don't have to commute, but it's I'm vested. You know what I mean? Like New Haven is home. It's
Your
always been
heart.
home. Yeah. I don't I feel I feel an obligation. Like I think
Mhm.
about the things that I had access to when I was in high school and the
Yeah.
people who I came across, and I feel like people made an investment in me. So it's like it almost feels like a
You're
natural.
giving back. It's the circle. It's the circle.
Yeah,
It's you don't ever want that circle not to be infinite.
absolutely.
Yeah. So the best part of it is that what I feel, because I've been doing community work forever.
Hmm.
The biggest part of it is to make sure that any nuggets that I can give, I give back to people that are here. Yeah, I've gone to Georgia, I've gone to Pennsylvania, I go to New York, and I've even gone to Canada. But at the same rate, any nuggets that I share there are here too. And that's why I always call myself a serial entrepreneur. If I don't know how to do it, I'm finding somebody that knows how to do it, and then I'm learning from them, so then I know how to do it.
Hmm.
And you have done the same thing. So all that value that we bring to New Haven, and the reward is success of others. And people don't understand that we don't need gratitude and awards and acclamations. We'll take them, yes, because every once in a while they're for us.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
what we have to do is remember that the things that we do are bettering others. I always say, you lead them to water, you can't make them drink, but don't bring them to an empty pond. and you don't do that. So tell me more about Citywide Youth, and then, oh, I'm not even gonna try. Pronounce the other organization that you. I'm horrible.
Colectivo Bambula.
There you go. Yeah, and
So
beautiful.
So my work is Citywide. Citywide's been around since 1976. When I came into the picture, Citywide was essentially a coalition of service providers in the city who were essentially doing everything on behalf of young people, which is a beautiful thing. That coalition has been very powerful over the decades. It has leveraged its power essentially to get policies passed. It got funding. For instance, there was a point where Citywide was a co-creator of the Youth Development Training and Resource Center over at the Yale Consultation Center,
Yeah.
right? That was something that was created through Citywide and essentially was a training hub for professionals who were working in youth development. And the way that Citywide had influence there, the coalition, was in making sure that anyone who was getting city monies on behalf of young people had to have their people trained in understanding youth development. So like Citywide had that kind of a power. So when I came into the picture in 2016, was it? 2015. I think it was 2015. 2015, I came into the picture. I came in as a board member. They invited me into the board. I was working in New York at the time, commuting back and forth. And I became involved in Citywide primarily because after my time in Oakland, I got bit by the organizing bug. I had spent all my time, running programs, right? Helping folks come home from incarceration, treatment, and what have you, housing. But none of the work that I had done had really amounted to the kind of change that was long term. Because even think about this, right? So I did work at Project More, and our whole job there was making sure people not only didn't go back to jail, but they had housing and they had jobs. But the thing was that the way that we went about getting people jobs were in long-term jobs. Most of the time they were like temporary jobs. And even when they got those jobs, they still faced other barriers to get housing, to get access to certain services. So no matter what we taught them, they still had to deal with a bunch of system barriers that were beyond the control of what the program offered. So going to Oakland and doing the work over in Oakland with the California Endowment, I got a chance to see how people in that community in Oakland showed up whenever the city was trying to pass ordinances and spend money on behalf of the city without the city being involved, meaning the people.
They have a big community.
Listen, when they tried to put stop and frisk out there, I went for the city hall meeting. You couldn't sit down. I think that meeting went on until 1 a.m. with so many people who came to testify against it. But either way, being in that space, it kind of got me thinking about what it would look like if we organize our resources to really support young people. So when I came back and wanted to get involved with the coalition, I did it primarily because one of their goals was to become involved in policy advocacy. So I was like, I'm gonna go sit at this table. But when I sat at that table, and it was right around the time when Black Lives Matter as a movement really started progressing, I wanted
Shout out
to
Black Lives Matter, my girls, my babies.
So as that movement was moving around in the country, I thought Citywide had an obligation to like be ready to support young people. But when we tried to do that essentially with other nonprofit providers, they weren't interested in the organizing work. In fact, they to them, organizing is, can you go up to the Capitol and speak on behalf of such and such a bill so they don't cut our budget? Not necessarily change policy so that our young people can thrive. So,
You see at the table.
No, and the thing is, and I get it, Marcy, because ain't nobody trying to go up to the Capitol to talk trash to the people that give them their funding in the first place. You talk trash to Master's likely to take away your funds, right?
There you go.
I'm not trying to be funny, but that's essentially what it is. And I had to understand that. So when I couldn't get the nonprofits to come to the table to want to organize, I started working with young people. My thought was, we're going to be the Citywide Youth Coalition. Maybe young people need to be at this table. So as we made room for young people at the table, and we started holding those spaces at the library for dialogue, right? And we started just holding space for political conversation, for healing spaces. young people started showing up, adult allies like yourself, like
Yeah.
folks like Gary Winfield and Robin
Mhm.
Porter, Black Lives
Mhm.
Matter New Haven, you know, folks started
Mhm.
showing up to
Yeah.
support the critical capacity of young people to like think outside the box. And that
Yes.
evolved into young people starting to organize. So then Citywide pivoted its work to supporting young people at the forefront of the change that needs to happen so that they can be successful. We initially, our mission was about ensuring that we have a courageous community where young people succeed. But that
Mhm.
success has always been defined by how adults see people should succeed. And for them,
Yeah.
it's being college ready. And what we found working with young people is that their definition of success is much bigger than just going
Mm.
to college. You know, they
Yes.
want to be entrepreneurs, they want to be
Mhm.
on the ground being public
Mhm.
servants, they want to be
Mhm.
artists.
Yes.
And as such, we had to evolve with them. We did
Mhm.
not only make room for them at the table, but we made room for them in the organization, and we were able to secure more funding so that now we have a director who's responsible for organizing young people. We have a
Mhm.
director who's responsible for holding space for political education on a weekly basis. Our young
Mhm.
people are always on the ground. Whenever there's an issue that young people
And
are
you're
bringing
moving.
up in the city, they use their position, their power, their to amplify the voice of young people that are mostly
Mhm.
marginalized. And as such, they even introduced a bill with the Connecticut Black and Brown Student Union this term, which has now
Yes.
advanced out of committee around redefining what school safety is,
Yes.
redefining the role of the school resource officers.
Yeah.
But you know, all of that work that we're doing at Citywide has been because we wanted to be more inclusive of the
Of
young
course.
people we claim to serve.
Of
So
course.
it's been a beautiful mess, if you will. And I say mess
Oh
because
yeah.
it's not like we just came with instructions. We wanted to share power with young people. That meant that we had to get out the way. I'm still the executive director of Citywide, meaning I write
Yeah.
grants, I take
Mhm.
meetings, I handle the policy and the procedures of the organization.
Of course.
But the primary work around the organizing and the education of young people in the community is done by
Yes.
the rest of the staff. That's
Yeah.
not my work anymore. My work is to really support them to be the
Yes.
leaders of the
The
org.
best that they
Um,
can and listen and learn. You know,
oh,
'cause
absolutely.
I'm sure you're learning while you're listening. You know, so I mean, the kids are different, so you're finding out how different they really are. It's so much harder for them to, you know, deal with the nerd and society thing that kids do because everything is so socialized and the media makes it look like and the music makes it look like you got to be balling and all this other stuff, but how can you ball if you're being restrained? So it's really good that
And
I'm
I'm over
balling, but
here.
I'm balling in the same soup.
Mhm.
Literally. So I really appreciate the work that you guys do, and it just makes jobs like mine easier because I can go, okay, let me call out this baby and have them help me with this.
Mhm.
It's like YCL for me, and being a delegate with CPUSA. Those are hard things to do, but we can't organize without the kids
No,
because
not at all.
I'm not trying to have Azari and Love and Manny and all my other beautiful kids there in YCL because Azari's a red diaper baby. Forget it. Azari's organizing right now already. So it's just a matter of letting them know how to do the steps to move forward and get the results that they need to get. So I do that work, you do that work. We all do it in different aspects, but you do it on a higher level by just letting them do it and being the support. I had to take my hands away from YCL, just let them go, because next thing I know, they're having a march. I'm coming. I just gotta go. Let me go rent the truck so we can dress it up. That type of thing. That's it.
Yeah,
But it was a great feeling to see them be able to do that, and I know that's
absolutely.
your reward as well.
Man, but that reward comes with some tension because
Mm-hmm.
eventually the student outshines the teacher.
Yeah.
And my team has taken me to task.
Yeah.
They've organized with me and sometimes even against me.
Yeah.
When I say against me, I'm talking about really holding me accountable. At one
Yes.
point, we had to start looking at the way that we fund the people that we hire. How much are we paying
Mm-hmm.
them? What are we offering? And
Mm-hmm.
in doing so, Shoot, they actually brought up the cost, how much we were paying staff as a result of that. So like I thank them
Mm.
for them challenging not only me, but the board of directors as well.
Yeah,
In the board, I'm currently looking for board members. I'm looking for young people under 25 who might want to join the board at Citywide. Because
yeah.
part of our work is not just about having the power, and position, but the people who are in charge of the organization overall and the governance also need to be a reflection of the young people we are putting
Of
as a
course,
priority.
of course. So let people know where to reach you as far as Citywide
Oh,
is concerned.
sure.
For
If
that.
you're interested, please feel free to email me at Addys, Addys, at cwyc.org. We are currently looking to expand the board of directors. We are looking for folks who are committed to the work that we're doing. And we're always looking for folks that want to collaborate in this work with young people. Again, we meet there on Tuesdays. Our space is on downtown 928 Chapel Street, Suite 201, every Tuesday from 3:30 to 5:30. You can find a team working together specifically on radical wisdom and education, where they essentially hold space for political discourse around hot topics in media, but also
Mhm.
on prevailing issues that are happening in schools at the precise moment that they're happening.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of discussions right now around defining what public safety can look like and how
Yes.
we might be able to advance public safety, not just as a measure of having police presence, but having other resources available to people in community, like mental health
Hmm.
services.
Yeah.
Like there's not enough of that. More arts and culture, more housing, affordable housing, because man,
Hmm.
pretty expensive to live in New Haven. And if I was a young person graduating high school or working or trying to move out of my parents' house, this is not the city to come move to, because there ain't no there. Man, the housing here is ridiculous. The cost.
Yeah. It's very costly, very, very costly. All of Greater New Haven, West Haven, New Haven, even like North Haven, forget it. It's very costly. So when you're building entrepreneurs, we want to be able to make sure that they are sustained while they're building. And
Mhm.
that's a part of the teaching for me, teaching them the business portion of it. Because I know for a fact that like my daughter has this dream. She's wonderful at doing hair. But what she wants to do is a little different. She wants to be able to build one place where everybody can get everything done instead of it being she can do some hair, seriously. So okay, there you are. Like she froze on me. She froze with that face, like,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, she's very but it's a very good idea. But she's one of those that's gonna bring people with her. And we're teaching these kids how to bring people with them, and it's a wonderful thing. So let's talk about dancing.
Oh boy. I was listening to your podcast earlier with Hanam. Shout out to my
Yeah.
sis, Hanan Hameen, my sis. Um, Man, I was loving. I never heard her tell that full story on how she started dancing to begin with. But I
Hmm.
was like, oh, okay, sis,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
my girl. So, what you want to know? What do you want to know about my dancing?
Well, like all of a sudden I see Addis in this beautiful cultural outfit doing this dance of security and this I was like, what the heck? Wait a minute. And it's such a beautiful dance because I do the Afrobeat and African,
Hmm.
and I'm like looking, going, it's such a beautiful dance. And you explained some of it to me, but I never understood like really I know the background pretty much from going to your story, going to the theater. But
Hmm.
now I get a chance to find out the real roots, what certain things mean.
Hmm. Hmm.
And listen, one day I'm going to get there. I'm going to have to make some time. One day I'm going to get there. But let people know. Listen, I've been trying to get to the drum lessons at the center. I just can't. I just.
Hmm. I feel you. So with respect to the dance you're talking about my bomba.
Yeah.
So I can't really tell you about bomba without telling you what brought me to bomba.
There you go.
So I, have been dancing. I've never taken I didn't pay to take any classes. I'd be lying. I learned the old fashioned poor way, watching other people dance.
Mm-hmm.
I got lucky to go to a school like Betsy Ross, where I got to take free West African dance classes with the likes of Sherry Caldwell. Shout out to Miss Sherry.
Where
Um,
is she? Okay.
Folks like Stanley Reynolds, learning modern dance there. Shout out to Mr. Reynolds. So all of my dance experience and background came by virtue of being around other artists. So I pick up
Mm-hmm.
quickly, and I've always loved West African dancing. But most of it has been because it's the most affirming space that I'm usually in. That and hip hop, that was my thing, even in college. So fast forward, I stopped dancing and I start working at Citywide, and I come across Hanan, who's putting the hip hop festival in New Haven. I got connected to Hanan through Sarah Hodges. Shout out to Sarah in
Yes.
Alaska. Um, and me and Hanan clicked. So I'm starting to, get invited to things Hanan's doing. And, Hanan's teaching and doing her badass stuff. And then she invited me to dance in one of her performances. And she was like, yeah, I want you to do some things that are like innate to like, your culture. And, at the time, salsa is what I knew. Merengue, I knew a little bit. I knew a little bit about plena, but I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
bomba. I didn't know it. I've heard of it, but I've never performed it. I've seen it kind
Mm-hmm.
of, sort of, but I
Yeah.
didn't know it. And so fast forward a year later, Hanan has this opportunity to go to West Guinea on a trip
Mm-hmm.
for us to
Mm-hmm.
go drumming and dancing. And I got excited and I wanted
Oh.
to go. So I went with Hanan. So me, her, and her cousin and one of her dance daughters, we went to West Guinea. Matter of fact, it was 2019. 2019.
Wow.
2019. And let me tell you, Marcy, it was such a wonderful experience. I got to like dance every single day with like three different instructors.
Mm-hmm.
We got to like be in space with other folks, and it just felt so beautiful out in West Guinea.
Mm-hmm.
So right after I get back from West Guinea, I went on a family vacation to Puerto Rico with my kids, and we
Yes.
were staying in Loíza, which is the northeast part of the island.
Mm-hmm.
It's the blackest part of the island. They call it
Mm-hmm.
La Capital de la Tradición, which is the capital of the tradition.
Yeah.
So I'm staying there, and as we're driving through, I'm just looking and seeing how much that area of Puerto Rico reminds me of West Guinea. And then I look
Yes.
at the flag, and do you know, like they have the exact same colors,
Yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
different sign, but the same exact colors. And it kind of got me thinking about the fact that, I spent so much time learning West African dancing.
Mm-hmm.
What about my own cultural traditions in Puerto Rico,
Yes.
I need to learn. So I started to seek spaces to learn bomba. And in 2019, I had an opportunity to be in a play at Yale called La Negra, a musical. I had
Oh.
audition. They put me in chorus, and then we had our first rehearsal, and the director changed her mind and wanted me to be the lead. So
Yes.
what started off as me wanting to learn for performance evolved into me wanting to learn it for myself. So what is bomba? Bomba is a mixture of our African and indigenous traditions in Puerto Rico, spiced a little with Spanish because the Spanish colonized us. So
Yes.
when folks got to Puerto Rico, when it was Borinquen, we didn't all speak the same language. Imagine being enslaved and put to work with some folks. So people learned to communicate with music. So bomba is essentially what occurred between us. We created music together. So the bomba
Yes.
drum is a barril.
Mm-hmm.
It's or called the barrel. It's
Mm-hmm.
made out of an actual barrel. They usually, and it's not like the djembe. The djembe, you get
Yeah.
some wood, you hollow it out. The bomba barrel, they would just take whatever barrel they would have their hands on.
Mm-hmm.
So then they would use goat skin, just like the djembe.
Yes.
And that would be the marker for the drum. So in bomba, you have two different types of drum. You have one person who's the lead drummer, el
Mm-hmm.
primo, and then you have everyone else who is supporting the rest of the drum line, los bulladores.
Yes.
Followed with a maraca, which right now I don't have in my hand, but hold on a minute.
Okay.
Here,
Mm-hmm.
this
Yes. Mm-hmm.
is essentially what our indigenous ancestors used, but also in Africa has their own version of this. The
Yes.
singer would, use the maraca to maintain time, and it
Yeah.
becomes a call and response.
Yes.
So this practice of bomba came by way of me wanting to be in part of performance,
Mm-hmm.
and I got into it wanting to learn to dance it. And the thing with
Yes.
bomba is it's not choreographed. You kind of move according to what you feel, and
Yes.
every beat has its own particular meaning. Um,
Yes.
so I got into the bomba space to learn to dance, and over the course
Mm-hmm.
of, the pandemic, I started taking lessons and classes virtually with other bomba artists across the world, and I
Yes.
started drumming. And
Mm-hmm.
because I was told that, to be a better dancer, you need to understand how the drummer
Mm-hmm.
moves. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to drum. And then from drumming, it kind of translated into wanting to be a part of the call and response. And from the call and response, it turned into wanting to be a part of the singing. And it
Singing.
turned
Yeah.
into writing. So like
Mm-hmm.
my evolution in that space has been big. And it
It
has
has.
been so freaking liberating.
Yeah.
It's like coming home. So
Yeah.
um
Peace in your face.
yeah, I
Every
love it.
time I see you, it's like that peace in your face. I'm like,
Yeah, man, it feels good. I mean,
and
I'm
that
looking
music.
at the picture behind you, like the sisters behind you. It
Yes.
kind of reminds me of that space right now. The whole
Yeah.
just being in flow and
Yes. Yes. Yes.
kind of
Yes. Yes.
dancing your piece.
Yeah. I have shout out to Joanne. She makes pieces for me, but one's made out of earrings, one's made out of shells, and these are my praise women. And it depends on what you want to praise. You want to praise yourself, you want to praise God, you want to praise drums, you want to praise. But notice the flow of the skirts. That's one of the
Hmm.
reasons why, because the flow, and they're doing what they need to do. So I'm going to
Hmm.
take a minute to let everyone know that they're listening to MarceyLynn once again on 103.5 WNHHLP, New Haven Independent Community Radio. And you already know, I got the beautiful Miss Addys Castillo here, no relation to one. And she is giving us a little bit of something, something. This is my sister right here. This is my baby girl sister. I always call them my baby sisters, even though, I'm only a little bit older than them. I'm just kidding.
Nah, we
Older than
sisters
them.
for real.
Period.
We
But
we
yeah, yeah.
sisters for real.
For real, because we've been through
Hmm.
some stuff. So this is going to be two parts, and I'm going to get a little bit more into the artistry. So we're going to take about 4 or 5 minutes more on the artistry, including your beautiful artwork on your body, because I'm into that. And then we're going to go into our next segment, which will be even deeper into Miss why you in law school now.
Mm.
So you're going to give us educate us on some of that as well. So if you can, just give us a little bit about, besides the artist. First of all, that musical.
Oh, that's right. You came to see it. Thank you for coming. I totally forgot folks came to see it.
Oh my
That was my
goodness.
first time acting. I've never acted in anything.
It was you. It was so you. And just you took that lead and you made it understandable, and it was just a beautiful story in general, and then the music was just powerful. It's just amazing. So tell me a little bit about more of that production. How was it? How'd you go from not acting and to being the lead because of your passion? I'm sure it's because of your passion, but
So it's a funny. I wish I could really explain it, but all I can tell you is I was after I got bit by the bug of wanting to learn more about my own culture. I was looking for whoever was doing that practice locally, and I found a local group that was doing that.
Mhm.
Creating space to learn bomba. So when
Yeah.
I got into that space, I there was a call, an audition for a play that was being curated by this young lady named Sophia. I believe last name was Sanchez,
Mhm.
um, over at Yale. So she was this half Puerto Rican, Afro Puerto Rican woman whose family lineage is to one of the bomba artists of the island. So
Mm-hmm.
she spent like the summer curating, like getting all these stories to create this musical. So I was at that time I was learning bomba with Movimiento Cultural in New Haven, and in
Mm-hmm.
that space, we were going to be doing the music for them. So because we were doing the music, I went ahead and submitted an audition, a video of me just reciting some lines, and I must have been
Mm-hmm.
cheesy because I didn't get cast, but to do the background stuff. But
Yeah.
then we had a table read, and during the table read, we did a little bit of singing some of the stuff that we were going to be singing for the
Mm-hmm.
performance. And afterwards, the director set a one-on-one meeting with me and asked me to step up to be lead because of my voice. So
Mm-hmm.
for translation purposes, bomba is not R&B.
Mm-mm.
So what I'm used to hearing as far as music and R&B,
Yeah.
how I translate music should sound versus what it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like in bomba was
Yes.
like it didn't exactly, I didn't know the difference. But
Mm-hmm.
apparently my voice translates in that space. So
Mm-hmm.
I was a little hesitant, but I stepped into it. Um, and it worked out. To be honest, I held back a lot during rehearsal because I didn't know what I was doing. But I
Mm-hmm.
gotta tell you, Marcy, I think before we opened up the play, right? Now, mind you, that play was done at what used to be Calhoun College. Remember that
Yes. Yes.
shit? When we
Mm-hmm.
were
Oh.
protesting out there those Fridays, trying to change the
Yeah.
name. So
Yeah.
before we did the play, they got to change the name,
Mm-hmm.
Calhoun College, to give it some context, was the name of this one of the Yale colleges, the residential
Yeah.
colleges in Calhoun. James
Yeah.
Calhoun
Mm-hmm.
was a notorious proposer, supporter of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And they protested it specifically after Corey Menifee broke the window and got arrested and got fired.
Over and
So
over again.
yeah, right. So being there, having this music about Black women, Black Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
Black Puerto Rican women in that
Mm-hmm.
space meant that we had to sage that mug. We had to let it be known the
Oof.
ancestors in the space. So
Oof.
they did like a little ceremony beforehand.
Of
And I don't know
course.
what happened, but like when I stepped on stage, I felt the presence of my ancestors is the only way I can actually
It's
describe it.
wonderful. Isn't that a
It's like
wonderful?
I transcended. I don't remember
Right
much of
there.
the performance, but I remember I cried during the performance. I became my character, Juisa, in that
Mm-hmm.
space. So no relation, maybe there is, I'm not sure. Juisa
Yeah.
was a real person.
Mm-hmm.
She was one of the tribe leaders,
Mm-hmm.
who essentially protected her town by marrying the Spanish, only to try to kill them in their sleep, and
Mm-hmm.
set up revolutions. And eventually she died doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the character I had to play. It was something I've never done before, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it has come a little more naturally because of dance. Dancing is about, emoting,
Movement.
movement, and
Mm-hmm.
conveying emotion through movement.
Yes.
So it kind of happened almost naturally to do it.
Yeah.
Ever since then, I've been in a couple of other plays, and I'm actually shooting a movie at the end of the month. Don't ask me
Yes.
how I got time, but I'm still doing a little
We
acting
make it
here.
happen. We make it happen. Gotta
Yeah.
make it happen. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Do you think I would expect to be here on radio?
No, but sis, you're a natural. I like
Yeah,
even listening to your voice. I was like,
yeah.
yes, this is a
I,
good gig for
and you know
you.
what? I'll listen back to my things and go, ugh. I really don't like the way it sounds, but it ends up working itself out. And my goal in life, what have I always wanted to do? Connect like-minded people so there wouldn't be so much inequity in everybody thinking that it's a competition. There's no
Hmm.
competition in the same. If you're doing the same thing, get together and do it in unity because it's going to be
Yeah.
big. So this allows me to do that. Like people might not know about Citywide Youth Coalition, and now they can
Don't know
go
now.
and they and they want to let me get Addys. I didn't know Addys did Bamba. I want to know more about Bamba. I want to more about just in general life on life's terms with living with the society and kids daily, seeing the changes, and we're going through centuries seeing the changes. And you know, both your child and my nephew are off to
Yeah.
college.
Remember when they used
CJ's
to hang out together?
oh my, I was like, these little boys are not little boys anymore. They are grown men. And I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of Robbie. I'm so proud of CJ. And I just they're just beautiful young men. So a lot of good things come out of Amistad, you know,
Mm,
even now with what's going on in there. There's a lot of good things that come out of Amistad and a lot of good things that come out of New Haven Public Schools. And
absolutely.
of course, you are one of them. So I'm going to end this show here, and then we're going to pick up for part 2. So you guys get ready. But again, you are listening to MarceyLynn once again on WNHH, and I look forward to our next segment. No, we're not changing clothes because we're just going to go right into it. Peace.